In the early 20th century, doctors prescribed fresh air treatment for tuberculosis patients, which involved exposing them to frigid outdoor air, even in winter. Patients at sanatoria were bundled in blankets and left on porches or balconies in freezing temperatures, sometimes with snow covering their beds, based on the belief that cold, fresh air killed tuberculosis bacteria. In 1930s America, dance marathons became a popular form of entertainment during the Great Depression. Couples would dance continuously for hundreds of hours, only allowed 15-minute breaks every hour, often until they collapsed from exhaustion. Spectators paid to watch desperate contestants compete for prize money in these grueling endurance contests that sometimes lasted over 100 days. Emperor Norton Vi of the United States was a San Francisco eccentric who in 1859 proclaimed himself Emperor of the United States and Protector of Mexico. Despite having no actual authority, locals humored him for over 20 years. He issued his own currency, accepted by some businesses, was saluted by police, and when he died in 1880, 30,000 people attended his funeral. During the 1904 St. Louis Olympics, marathon runner Thomas Hicks was given strychnine, a poison in high doses, and brandy by his trainers as a performance enhancer. He hallucinated, collapsed several times, and had to be carried across the finish line by his support team, yet was still awarded the gold medal after the initial winner was disqualified for hitchhiking. The Great Molasses Flood of 1919 in Boston occurred when a large storage tank burst, sending a wave of molasses through the streets at an estimated 35.5 m. The disaster killed 21 people and injured 150 others, with some victims essentially glued to the ground by this sticky substance. On hot days, residents claimed they could still smell molasses for decades afterward. In 1911, inventor Franz Reichelt tested his wearable parachute suit by jumping from the Eiffel Tower in front of a crowd and film cameras. The parachute failed to deploy, and Reichelt plummeted to his death, leaving a 15-scene deep impression in the frozen ground below. Dr. Henry Cotton, who ran the New Jersey State Hospital for the Insane from 1890 to 1930, believed mental illness was caused by hidden infections in the body. He removed patients' teeth, tonsils, stomachs, spleens, and colons, often without anesthesia, resulting in a 30% mortality rate among those he operated on. In the Victorian era, arsenic was used in everything from wallpaper to clothing dye, particularly a bright green color known as Paris green. Many fashionable women suffered from arsenic poisoning due to their green dresses, while Napoleon's death has been linked to arsenic in his wallpaper. During the 1876 Centennial Exhibition in Philadelphia, a giant refrigerated cheese weighing 22,000 pounds was displayed for months in the summer heat. When the exhibition ended, pieces of the now rancid cheese were sold to the public, causing a minor public health incident. The graves of vampires were sometimes found with bricks in the corpse's mouth. This practice stemmed from the belief that the loud moaning sounds coming from decomposing bodies, caused by escaping gases, were signs the dead were consuming their burial shrouds, turning them into vampires. In 17th century Europe, human remains were considered valuable medicine. Mummy powder made from ground-up Egyptian mummies was prescribed for various ailments, while the fat of executed criminals, known as poor sinner's fat, was used to treat arthritis and muscle pain. Ancient Egyptian embalmers removed all of the deceased's internal organs except the heart, which they believed was the center of intelligence and feeling. The brain was considered unimportant and was typically removed through the nostrils using special hooks before being discarded. During the 1876 robbery of Abraham Lincoln's tomb, the thieves managed to remove the marble lid of his sarcophagus but couldn't move his heavy coffin. When the Secret Service later checked Lincoln's remains in 1887, they found his features still recognizable 11 years after his body had been exhumed during the attempted theft. And King Henry I of England died in 1135 from eating a surfeit of lampreys, eel-like fish, against his physician's advice. His body began to decompose so rapidly that the embalming attempt failed. His corpse leaked so profusely that the individual tasked with transporting his remains reportedly died from the fumes. President Zachary Taylor reportedly died in 1850 after consuming large quantities of cherries and iced milk at a July 4th celebration. The extreme change in his body temperature, combined with other possible factors, led to a severe gastrointestinal illness that killed him 5 days later. Ancient Roman gladiators were considered the sports celebrities of their day, but their diets weren't what you'd expect. They consumed mainly barley beans and dried fruit, a high-carbohydrate diet that created a layer of fat to protect them from superficial wounds and make injuries look more dramatic without being lethal. Empress Elizabeth of Austria, known as Sisi, was so obsessed with maintaining her tiny waistline that she slept with damp cloths wrapped around her midsection and devoted hours each day to her beauty regimen. Her hair washing routine alone took an entire day each week, using eggs and cognac as conditioning treatments. The bodies of Jeremy Bentham, Galileo Galilei, and Albert Einstein were all treated unusually after death. Bentham's body was preserved and displayed. His head was replaced with a wax model after preservation attempts went wrong. Galileo's middle finger is exhibited at a museum in Florence, and Einstein's brain was removed during autopsy without his family's initial consent and kept for decades for scientific study. The great composer Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart had a fascination with potty humor. He wrote several pieces with crude titles and lyrics, including a canon called Leck mich im Arsch, literally lick me in the rear. He also wrote numerous letters to his cousin filled with scatological jokes. President William Howard Taft was so large that he once became stuck in the White House bathtub and required 4 men to help extract him. Following this embarrassing incident, a new, larger tub was installed that could fit 4 average-sized men. In medieval Europe, animals could be put on trial for crimes. A pig might be dressed in human clothes and brought to court for injuring a child, while insects could be tried for destroying crops. Some animals were even provided defense attorneys. The dancing plague of 1518 in Strasbourg saw hundreds of people dancing uncontrollably for days without rest. Some danced until they collapsed from exhaustion or died from heart attacks and strokes. Physicians at the time prescribed more dancing as treatment, believing the afflicted needed to dance out the illness. During the Victorian era, it became fashionable to take photographs with deceased loved ones as a form of memento mori. The deceased would be positioned as if they were still alive, sometimes with their eyes propped open or painted onto the photograph afterward to create the illusion of life. In ancient Rome, vomitoriums were not places where people went to throw up after feasting. They were actually large passageways that allowed crowds to exit amphitheaters quickly. The misconception comes from the Latin word vomere, to discharge, referring to how these corridors would discharge spectators efficiently.